Hello and welcome to the Families Embracing Diversity podcast. Today's conversation is with Hai-Anh Liu, the founder of Little Beans Toy Chest. And today we are talking all about ways that you can help ensure you're saying people's names correctly and the importance of taking those little steps, as well as the importance of diverse books and toys and representation in media. You don't want to miss this conversation. It's full of helpful hints and tips for all parents of young children. So you have mentioned before that Vietnamese names are hard to pronounce. I don't think your name is that hard to pronounce, by the way, but you have mentioned that people sometimes struggle with that, and a lot of your friends have chosen to pick American names to make life easier. Have you ever felt pressure to do that as well?
Yeah, so my name is Hai-Anh. Before that, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Hai-Anh Vũ, and the first name is Hai-Anh. So yeah, I agree. It's not a hard name to pronounce. It's just very confusing because it has a space in the middle. So people think of it as two words. And then when I sign my name as Hai-Anh, people think that Hai is my first name and Anh is my last name, or vice versa. So when I go to paperwork, for example, like applying for visas and air tickets or things like that, there's always confusions, credit cards, everything. So that's a little bit of administrative issues and daily life as well. But I've been quite stubborn. I didn't want to change my name because of that. I feel like it's my name, you take it. And I went through college in the US and now I live in the US again. I haven't had to have a lot of necessity to change my name because, because I was a student and now I'm here with my husband. I'm saying that because I realize that's not the same for many people. It's kind of a privilege for me to be able to do that, especially among the other Vietnamese who are in the immigrant community. There is a lot of pressure sometimes to change names. So for some circumstances, it's because the name itself is problematic when you talk about it in English. So some names, like Dung is D-U-N-G, or Bich, which is B-I-C-H. When you imagine an immigrant kid going to school and being made fun of because his name sounds like something else. So that's one instance. And then there are other instances where the parents come from, Vietnamese parents who came from the war. After the war, for example, they had a very troubled history, and they want to forget about it and kind of move on. And so they give the kids a name, an English name, or change the kid's name to English name. And it's their way to move on, right? To think about the future. And then I think when I was at college as well, we had this rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but among us, when we had to apply for work, and we thought, if you put an English name on the resume, the recruiter may think that, okay, there's no need to apply for a work visa for them. And that kind of removes a hurdle in the recruitment process. They wouldn't discriminate when they see the resume. So the people have many reasons to change their names. And I was just lucky that I did not have to because of my circumstances. But I understand that that's part of the rationale for people to change their names, and among many other reasons that I can think of.
That makes a lot of sense because from my perspective, I think, well, you shouldn't have to. You're right. It is your name. But those are also reasons that as a white person born in the US, I don't have to think about those reasons. So I think it is important to recognize that even though maybe it's not something you want to do, sometimes it is a necessity to make life easier, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is important to consider. But what are ways that people could make sure they're pronouncing a name correctly or help with that discomfort, let's say? what are things people could do to make that not a necessity, I guess is my question.
I guess that there's two ways. I mean, it's a two-way process. For me, I know that my name is sometimes confusing. So when people ask me like, what's your name? And I said, it's Hai Anh. And, it's like saying hi to Einstein.
I love that. That's great.
People laugh and, that gets a laugh and people kind of get intrigued and remember it right away. So I think if you go to a place where your name is not common, then it helps to provide a story or provide, some kind of joke or something that makes people memorize it. I think it's harder for people who are being introduced to those names because it's like, you don't want to inadvertently make fun of that name,
right?
By, saying something, interpreting in a way that is incorrect or say something that means something else in their language. So, but I think it's just simply asking questions, say, how do you spell that? Or why, does it mean anything? And usually it can expand a bit of the conversation and makes it a bit easier to remember and to pronounce the names. I personally found that, especially this time, I've been back to the US almost 2 years. The last time I was here was over 10 years ago as a student. And I feel people are much more open to and being patient to asking that kind of question and making sure that they stop the conversation to try to pronounce the name correctly. And I'm very appreciative of that. I think people are aware, but yeah, it's a kind of a both way thing. If it's a hard name and you say it once and people forget about it, and it's understandable because it's hard.
Right.
Yeah. It's harder. Yeah.
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 I mean,
so
it's not a problem with the name. The name is not the problem. The problem is that people aren't used to hearing that name, and so it's new for them. So it's not necessarily a problem with you and your name. Your name is beautiful and perfect the way it is, but it's helping other people bridge the gap, I think.
Yeah.
And some people are more willing to walk on that bridge than others.
Yeah. And I think it's nice. And once I've been with my husband and he's American and all his friends and everyone, no one has trouble, because
Right.
once it's been flown around, then it's not that hard anymore, that strange anymore. So it's all about that first time making it familiar.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true. So it's okay to ask, and it's good to take the time to figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. And I, as a person who has that name, I appreciate it that people stop and ask.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Because I feel like it's such a simple thing, but it's something that so many people feel uncomfortable and don't know what to do in those situations. So others say, I can't say that, and just move on, or they don't give people a name. They just ignore it.
And that's worse because then it becomes awkward.
Right. Exactly. Yes. My husband's name is Eder. And again, not that hard, but he will tell people that it's Heather without the H. And so once a woman said, that's very feminine. Why don't you try feather without the F? or people will say, we'll just call you Ed, or they'll change it to some name that's not even close.
Yeah. That's funny. There's a lot of instances like that. Like people remember something else.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your story. How did you end up in the US for college? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Vietnam. And when I was young, English and going to America was like a dream. So then I finally went to college. And when I was in Vietnam, I lived in a fairly big city. It's the capital of Vietnam called Hanoi. So it's not like at that time it's not too commercial or huge, but still, there's a lot of density, people, streets, motorbikes and things. And then I went to college in America in the middle of nowhere in the state of Maine, Brunswick, Maine. So that was quite a change. And yeah, so then after that, 4 years at college, I stayed here to work for a little bit and went back to Vietnam and again into a big city in Ho Chi Minh City. And I lived there for a while, met my husband, who's American. And so we lived in Vietnam for a while, got married, and then moved to Hong Kong, to another big city. So we lived in Hong Kong for 8 years and had 2 kids there. And then during COVID, we moved again to now a very small island in the Pacific Northwest. And we're living in a farm. So I'm looking out of the farm,
wow.
out to a farm outside my window. So those are different changes, a lot of changes in my adult life. Changes, from city to country and suburbs, and from Asia to America, Vietnam to the US, very contrasting places.
Yeah.
I guess that influenced a lot of my interest in kind of cross-cultural understanding and identity, and, bridging the cultures. So that's one of my inspirations for founding my company, for making the products for the children that are about, helping kids celebrate their cultural heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what is the full story of how Little Beans Toy Chest came to be?
Yes. So as a mom, you may have many similar inspirations growing kids when, like going to a toy store, for example, and not getting the toys you want, or, what fits with your parenting philosophy.
Yeah.
So for me, it was when my first daughter was a toddler, and I went to the store and everything was very, like a lot of plastic and very, very gendered. There was like a kitchen, the pink kitchen for the girls and the cars for the boys and things like that. And things that are a bit more fancy are really pricey, really expensive. So like European wooden sets, for example. So I wanted to have a middle ground, and also creating something that is purpose driven, that is eco-friendly, and has meanings, and provide a lot of opportunities for open play, free play, no screen. So that's the first intention. And I did a few things. I also did some wooden toys, and then the fabric books that you saw. But then later I found it much more satisfying and inspirational to create my own content for the Quiet Books. And it's a great platform because it's handmade. You can customize it in many ways. You can't do that with a block of wood or some fabric toys, so some plastic toys. But you can always, cut something, and every mom can cut something, make a toy for their kids. And it's very interactive. You can put in zippers and laces and Velcro and all kinds of things that the kids can play with their hands. But I also wanted to make it something special. So in the context of our lives and our situation, I feel like it's very hard to go to a store and buy something that is reflective of our culture. Like now it's the same. If you go to Target or Walmart, you can't get something that is very, that celebrates the Vietnamese or Chinese or, Hong Kong and other cultures. And the toy world itself is very kind of mainstream. The mainstream world is very homogenic in a way. And I feel, the culture, the references, and the dolls, the things that are represented there, are not like diverse enough. So that's one of my inspirations, to have the books to celebrate different cultures and help the kids do that, not just by, reading. Reading is great, and those culture books are very important, but also have a play dimension to it. So they play with a puzzle, when they play with the zippers and stuff, they're also looking at these details about dim sum, or about like a Chinese good luck red envelope, for example. So those are cultural things that are embedded in each book. And I find that to be quite motivational because there's so many things you can do in a space that a few people are doing, and the parents appreciate it a lot. I had a Vietnamese mom who answered my survey the other day, and she said, the thing that I love about this book, I have a book about Vietnam. The thing I love the most about this book is that it exists in the first place, because I am, my husband's Vietnamese and I'm not Vietnamese, and this is the best thing I can have to teach my kids about Vietnamese culture for my children. So things like that are very rewarding for me to hear, because like, okay, you're doing something that helps people.
Yeah, you definitely are. Definitely. Yeah. And I think you're right. It does make it more real when they have that three-dimensional, they can touch it, they can move it. It's not just something they saw in a book. It's, I held this red envelope. This is what it looks like in a different scale.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have experience making toys and books, or did you just figure all this out?
No, I mean, I'm just a mom. I mean, I read about developmental milestones and what's good for what age. And of course, as a first-time mom, I was obsessed with like Waldorf and Montessori. And although talking about the importance of tactile, the playing with the hands and how it's good for the brain.
Yeah.
Staying away from electronics as much as possible. So those are the main experience I have. Yeah, in terms of making books, I do make them myself at first, as like for my own and for my kids. But now it's made by a team of artisans in Vietnam, and so I give them the ideas and the designs, and then they make them for me.
That's great. And how did you find these women who make your products, or how did you meet them?
So we meet. I mean, I meet them from online. I find them. But this is actually a social enterprise, and they employ disadvantaged people and women, helping them to have empower them to have a better life through employment. And also they do a lot of charities on their end. And so I feel very happy that I'm able to help in a way by, commissioning them to do the books and giving them the jobs that for their income. So
that's amazing. So not only are you empowering people around the world with your books, you're also empowering these women in Vietnam by giving them jobs and income, and that's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, I contribute a little part in it, I would say.
Every little bit counts, though.
Yes. So I think I would love to extend not only for Vietnamese, and I have books about Vietnam and China and Hong Kong, but also to other cultures as well, and other marginalized communities that are not often seen in the mainstream toy world.
Yeah.
That's my intention.
And you've already started doing that a little bit with your more recent projects. Do you want to talk about the dolls that you've been making and the game?
Sure, yes. So for the dolls, I recently made, I can show you.
Oh, good.
Made these,
so cute.
These dolls. So you have one of the books that has the characters, and you knew that.
I do. It's so cute. He still gets it out sometimes and be like, "Mommy, remember, you have to do it like this." And he'll open up the diaper and be like,
"Oh yeah, oh yeah."
Okay, you're 7. You want to change the diaper? Go for it.
Oh yeah, they will. I will take a moment then to show you how it is now, and if you can. Okay, I can show you now how it is now. My latest version is this, but the good thing is this thing can be changed so that I can have one who has the darkest skin color or blonde hair, and same with the baby, and same with the brother and the sister, so that
do a comparison.
Yeah,
that's so cool. That's great.
Yeah. So then we can have a lot of variety. We can personalize it. So that it's a family, especially the families like yours, where, it's a mixed family or families of colors that they don't see books about that. So
that's so cool. So they can literally see their family in the book. It's made for them. That is so cool.
Yeah. So So I'm very excited about that. And the reason for making all of that was actually inspired by a friend of mine, who was very similar to me, a Vietnamese, who studied abroad and ended up meeting a foreigner and getting married. And so I was her good friend, and she lived near me. And one day she just asked me, her kids were similar age as mine. So one day she just asked me about making a book with kids with like darker skin tone. And I stopped a moment, and she said, okay, she's a lawyer, but she said, I wanted to do this as a personal project because my daughter, living in Hong Kong, there are very few, people who are, her husband is black. And so, there are very few people that look like her daughter.
Yeah.
And that was a reason for her. And that really stopped me because I had never thought about that being a problem, because my daughter was, looking more like a mainstream kids in Hong Kong, and because she has lighter skin color. And all the books have lighter skin color because we kind of make it a default. We didn't think much about that.
Right.
But because of that experience, I thought, okay, that means, she was born and grew up, very same similar situation as my daughter, but her experience growing up was very different because she didn't see herself. And how strange that is, that, we are like twins in many ways, but we're not. And yeah, so that really inspired me to start diversifying all the toys, all the felt dolls that I have in the books, making sure that, if you want to, you can customize something that looks like your kids and make them feel like, okay, this is mini me in the book. And that has been my new project last year. And I'm very happy that it's well received. And I feel like it's a personal achievement, but I also feel like, every toy company should do that.
Yes, they should.
It should be the norm. It shouldn't be the exception that you have that kind of thing. I think there's more of that these days, but there could be still a lot more.
Yes, I think it's harder and it takes intentional thought. So until you have those moments that make you go, oh, you're right. Not everyone looks like this. A lot of people don't think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes the toys, they don't. Like when I grew up, it didn't matter. We had a doll that was, blue eyes and the big cheek and the blonde hair that my dad got from Russia. And that was what everyone had. And we never questioned, oh, why does it look like me? We just said that's the most beautiful one. That's our standard of beauty for us.
Right.
Yeah. Now the thinking is different. And I'm glad that there are much more choices for the children.
Yes, that is great. Yeah. But kids pick up on that. They notice, oh, this is what my doll looks like. This is this. They learn the standard of beauty, let's say, from a very, very young age. Exactly. How would you say parents can use your books and your toys to help teach their kids about culture and about diversity?
Yes, my hope is that it provides a platform for storytelling and playing at the same time. So if the parents and the kids can sit together and talk about the details in the books. So, for example, I just I show you the books this is a book about Hong Kong, and it has all the details about the market and about the dim sum, the local foods. And also, if you live in Hong Kong, then these are familiar, right? So you can talk about these, and explaining to them. For example, the one about, this is a Chinese New Year tradition where there's a red envelope and you put things in here for good luck and give people for good luck. So talking about the traditions, talking about the stories behind, instead of just letting them play only, that will provide a much richer experience for cultural understanding and understanding the heritage of their family. Yeah, especially if you're also Asian, then that helps, right, to bridge the knowledge. But if you're not, it's just it's a way to provide more understanding that, okay, people in Asia, they celebrate Asian Lunar New Year, and they don't, instead of Christmas. Of course, Christmas is celebrated these days too, but that's the importance of that holiday to them. And so giving them that understanding through play, I think is what we would love to do, is enabling the parents to do that in a more fun and interactive way. And yeah, so I hope that helps in a larger effort to, along with reading books and meeting people from those communities, and maybe attending festivals, go travel, many things you can do. And this is one of the ways that can enrich that teaching for the kids.
Definitely. And especially, at least here in the US, it's expensive to to travel.
Yes.
To travel that far from where we are right now. So that's a great way to give them a little window into places that they may not get to visit frequently or ever. That's wonderful. Yeah. Have you heard of any other ways that families have used your books or toys to teach their kids, to celebrate culture with their kids?
Yeah, I think one of the books I have, the Hong Kong one, was made in Hong Kong, and the people who love them the most are the expats who live there, and many times they use it as a souvenir, because they're going back to the country and they want the kids to remember Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually that includes us now, because we left Hong Kong. So my kids have the books as a way to remember, these are the sightseeing sites, and these are the foods, these are the festivals. Yeah, and then for the Vietnamese book, the book about Vietnam, and the parents, as I say, especially the Vietnamese American families really appreciate it. Vietnamese expats, because it's the way for them. There's nothing like it. There's a lot more about China, because there's a bigger Chinese expat population, but there's much less about Vietnam and, many other countries, which I hope to help with producing the books for. But so they really prize it as something special for their kids to do, to play with the culture. And I think the main thing about introducing culture and helping the kids is you have to make it fun. You can't just read the textbook or such. You have to make it fun and interactive, and some kind of games, and engage the kids, and they have to find it something joyful and colorful and desirable, right? And so I think that's another inspiration to make these books, because they are always really fun.
Yes.
As you can see, they're always colorful and fun, and you always want to touch it and do something with it. And so it has a long use.
Yes, it does. Right. And you're right. There's very little for the infant toddler age that has different cultures and that is interactive and that actually draws their attention. So yes, it's like an interactive scrapbook that they have to remember and interact with the culture. That's great.
Yeah, and also it's I think I love it when there are customers who have been our customer for years, and they say their kids are still using the book. So it's part of their childhood memories, okay, one of the special things that I have, and it has my name on it, and I treasure it for years. So that's been very nice to see.
Yes, that is beautiful. That's great. So currently we are in the middle, well, when we're recording this, we're in the middle of Asian American and Pacific Islander Month. Can you think of any activities or ideas or ways families can use your books or toys or other things that you know about to, let's say, celebrate and learn about the culture? They shouldn't just be doing it right now this month, but but anytime.
Yes. Yes. So I think the first thing that I think I should mention is, I feel the first step is for families to come together and look at a map to see what Asian encompasses, because sometimes there's a lot of fast thinking that Asian is only South Asian, or Asian is only East Asian, and if you want to talk about celebrating Asian, and Pacific Island heritage, it's important to know that, like, where they are and what other heritages. Um, as I said, books and toys have very important part to play because they are the conduit to help the teaching go in, very effectively, and the kids enjoying making learning while playing more fun and more and long lasting.
Right.
Kind of impression. I think as member of a small group of authors and creators who are making heritage products for kids, I feel it's important to notice and advocate for these authors and these creators, and also the bookstores around. I think there are some bookstores around now that are focused more on the immigrant or Asian American experience, and to support them, because usually these would be very small entities, very independent, published, self-published authors. And like me, I'm just like a mom and pop store, not competing with Toys R Us or anything, Target or anything. But it's important to have that support and to keep going. So if as families, it would be great to have all the support to receive the support from the families who are interested in celebrating and understanding Asian cultures, to seek out and support these entities.
Yes, definitely. All times of year, not just in the month of May.
Definitely. I'm glad I didn't hear about this month until last year when I moved back here. It wasn't anything like that I think it wasn't that apparent when I was at college. It wasn't a big celebration, but it's become much more central and talked about, and so that's a great thing.
That is a great thing. Progress. Slowly but surely. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to talk about all my passion and to share with you not only the quirky, funny stories of my name, but also other stories about cultures and raising kids. And I really appreciate having the blogs like yours. I think it's wonderful for people to have the kind of guidepost, the guides for parents to learn about, talking to kids about difficult subjects. And I know my kids, I feel they're still young, but I do need to talk to them more about these issues, about race, about diversity and things like that, at a more complex level.
I would bet you already do, just by them seeing you making dolls that have different skin colors. You're already opening up that door to the conversation. It's just it becomes sort of an ingrained part of life, I think, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a sit down, let's have this conversation. I think life gives us the opportunities and we just have to be willing to walk in the door sometimes. So I bet you're already doing a wonderful job of that.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your time. It was great to get to talk with you and learn a little bit more about your company. Now I love it even more than I did before we started.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.